Hey guys, it is Friday and I am back for the regular Friday live. And as you guys can see, my background's a little bit different because I'm traveling at the moment. I'm sitting at an Airbnb, but I wanted to come be consistent and show up just like I said that I always would on Fridays as long as I could. So just in terms of the setup, it's a little bit different. I have this like little tripod that I was able to put in my suitcase, and it's cute but it's not super strong, so if this phone falls over, just bear with me. I will pick it right up. But yes, I am Stephanie Kerr, and on today's live I want to share 2 lessons from the week. Thank you so much. I want to share 2 lessons from the week, and I really trust and hope that they'll be able to speak to you. I don't know why. I've been doing these lives for quite some time, but today I was a little bit just apprehensive about coming on live. Maybe it's because of the 2 lessons that I took away from the week that I was able to get from this week, but hopefully that just means that somebody really needs to hear it. And so let's just get into it. So number 1, hey Trav, good to see you. So number 1, this is from just thinking about friendships, and wherever I turned this week, the topic of friendship just kept coming up. It just kept coming up, in particular in my like Bible study time. So I would just be I think earlier this week I was just sitting down and I was thinking about a particular relationship in my life and just wondering to myself, can I like truly be a friend here? And as I was thinking about that, before I can answer that question, I have to know what is a friend. So of course, I pick up my Bible, I look at some scriptures where the word friend is mentioned, and I look at the meaning of the word friend. So let's just turn to it. I wasn't even planning to do this, but let's turn to it. Give me 1 second here. Friend. Okay, so it's the word rhea, and it means a companion, a fellow, someone who you can be intimate with, another in a reciprocal sense. And the very first time that we see the word friend mentioned is when Moses is talking to God. And it says in Exodus 33:11a, and the Lord spake unto Moses as a man speaks with his friend, or speaks. Let me read that again. And the Lord spake unto Moses face to face as a man speaketh unto his friend. So when I read that years and years and years ago, I felt so convicted because I was going around saying, you know what, I'm just one of those people. I don't have to see people all the time. Like, we could just talk on the phone every once in a while and I'm good. But the truth of the matter is, a true friendship, and in order to build and maintain and sustain a true friendship, there has to be proximity. Now, I'm not talking about your friend who lives in Australia. Like, of course you're not going to meet with your friend who lives in Australia every week on Tuesday for coffee. However, there should be intentional time to actually be in that person's presence and just connect with them, because that's what it means to be a friend. It means to be close. It means to be someone who they can trust with what's taking place in their life, and vice versa, right? Like, that's what it actually means to be a friend. So that was actually last week Friday. And so some of the things that I wrote down about friendships: friendship is about proximity. Friendships thrive when time is invested, and both share their heart with the other. So Moses asked God, can you show me your glory? And God was like, I can't show you my glory, but what I can do is this, right? So it involves compromise. And another thing I noticed about this particular passage is that God knew that if Moses were to come into his presence, he couldn't survive it. The Bible says that God is a consuming fire. So there's just a certain amount of just weight that his presence holds, that you can't just come into his presence and see his glory just like that. And so God said to him, nobody's going to see me and be able to live, so here's what I can do for you. And what that told me is that friendships require compromise as well. So if your friend is, let's say they're asking you to do something and you know it's not going to help them, you know it's actually going to destroy them, as a good friend, you should probably actually say, like, no, I actually can't do that, or this is what I can do. I can't meet you there, but here's where I can meet you. So that as a friend, you're really looking out for their best interests. So those were some of the things that I learned about friendship. Like I said, I wasn't even necessarily looking to go into the topic on friendship, but it just kind of presented itself to me, because I always want to make sure that what I'm thinking of agreeing to, I know what it actually entails. What does it actually require? If I'm saying that I'm going to be a friend, what does that mean? So that was last week Friday. And then randomly, or I shouldn't say randomly, because everything when it comes to the life of a believer is intentional. So the week continues, and then I decide on the 17th, which was Monday of this week, to read Proverbs 17. And so as I'm reading it, I get down to verse 17. And verse 17, guess what it says? It's talking about, of course, friends. And it says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. So to be born is to be created for, to bring forth, to beget, to engender. So that's the space through which a friend comes. That's how they come into existence. And they are, well, in fact, it says a brother is born for adversity. Adversity, that's distress, that's trouble, that's when you have enemies that are just in your life. And enemies don't have to be like people. Enemies could literally be even a situation could be an enemy to you, but a friend and a brother, they will be there, right? And one thing that I wrote down about this is that, let me see if I can find it here. The strength of a brother or a friend is revealed in adversity. So if you have people around you, or if you are that person who can only be found when times are good, you should probably look at yourself, or we should look at ourselves and ask ourselves if we're really being friends. If people can't find us when times are hard, like, am I really a friend if I'm only there to party with you? Am I really a friend just to celebrate your engagement? Am I really a friend if I'm only there at the good times? But then let's say the engagement gets called off. Am I still your friend then? Like, am I still there to pick you up and to be with you in that moment where you're not celebrating and no one's taking pictures of you? Like, it's the exact same, essentially, it's like the same journey of life. So let's say the engagement happens and everyone's there to take pictures, but for whatever reason the engagement gets called off. Do you still have those same people who you called friend in that moment there with you in that later moment, right? So that's what a friend should be. That's how they're proven, that they're there for you in those hard times. Not that they walk away in those hard times, but that they're there for you in those hard times. So that was Proverbs 17:17. And then, of course, like I said, this topic of friendship just kept coming up. I wasn't looking for it, it just kept coming up. And so Proverb 18, the very next day, here is what I found. Verse 24. He that has friends must show himself friendly, but there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. And I was just like, wow, it just keeps coming up. This topic of friendship, this topic of how to be a good friend. And I know for a fact that God is just doing something amazing in my friendships right now. Just really bringing some great people into my life. And a couple weeks ago, I asked someone, I was in her program for about a year actually, and then I was doing an additional program with her, and I asked the question about friendship because at the time it was just so fresh and new that one of my friendships at the time it looked like it was ceasing to be. And now I know for a fact, yes, they decided, for their own reasons, that it's better for us to go our separate ways. And I'm like, okay. And I asked the question about friendships, and one thing that she said that I want to share and leave with you guys today is that it's actually a very powerful response to just thank that person for making space for what is actually supposed to be in your life. And that just goes for any relationship. I was scrolling here on Instagram this week and I saw a reel of somebody. And in the reel, she said, I remember the moments where I would beg people to stay in my life. I would beg people to see my worth. I would beg people to give me a second chance or whatever the case is. And would just be so devastated, so broken, so destroyed, utterly destroyed when they would choose to walk away. And she came to the conclusion as she was healing that I don't own anyone. They're not my possession. I don't possess them, right? I get to experience them as we're going through life. I get to do life with them. They get to be a blessing to me. I get to be a blessing to them. But should life just so unfold that they're no longer in the space, in the capacity, in the proximity that they once were to me, I never owned them anyways. And that was just, it was super profound to me. I don't know if it's profound to anyone else, but it was a great reminder, because sometimes the way that we act when people decide that something is better for them, sometimes it's selfish and sometimes it's not selfish, but regardless of what their motive is, they still do have that autonomy by God given to them, that free choice to walk away. And sometimes there are relationships, for example, like a parental relationship, where we almost expect that because of the fact that it's a parental relationship, the person will always choose to be there. The dad will always choose to be there. The mom will always choose to be there. But even in that context, or a husband or a wife or a best friend, we have this expectation that they will just always be there. But even in those moments, sometimes people do decide that they don't want to continue being there. And it's just, like I said, good practice not to chalk up the whole entire relationship as having been horrible and bad because of how it ends, or how it seems like it's ending, but rather to thank them for, and this is not in every single case, but in my particular case with this particular person, this friendship, I can actually thank them for making space in my life for what's actually supposed to be there. And accepting that I can't control what people do, I can't control how people respond, but I can look to God and I can bring him, let's say, whatever the emotions may be. Maybe you're sad, maybe you're angry, maybe you're frustrated, maybe you feel misunderstood. You can bring all of that to him. And there's actually just a quote that I want to share with you guys from I think it was a YouTube video that I watched this week, and it says, only the presence of God has a heavier weight than the pain. Only the presence of God has a heavier weight than the pain. So if for whatever reason there's a friendship, there's a relationship, there's something that has ceased to exist in your life, just know that if you come into the presence of God, you will find that his presence is stronger than the pain. His presence can speak louder than the pain. His presence can be everything that you need it to be, because his presence is restorative. He's the God of all comfort. So that was one of the big lessons for me this week. And I wanted to leave that with you guys, because I know that there's got to be at least one other person who you're wondering, why did they walk away? Why did they do what they did? Like, I don't quite get it. But you don't own anyone. I don't own anyone. And seasons do change. And sometimes what also changes with the seasons is the environment or the people who we're doing life with at that particular moment. And last thing I will say is sometimes people come back into our lives. Sometimes it's literally a cyclical interaction where we thought they were gone, but then a couple years later they're back. And I've had that happen with friends as well. So just be encouraged. God is with you. And I think what had brought this, I guess, to the forefront of my mind is I had a chance to listen to something that they had put out there about what had happened. And so I got a chance to listen to their perspective. And I was just really taken aback by just how they looked at the situation. But again, I know that everything does happen in the life of a believer for a reason. God is able to turn all things around for good. And that's what I just have to trust God for, that everything will come together in the end. So that was lesson number 1. I'm trying to see what I would summarize that as. Yeah, I think I would say, if I had to summarize that in one sentence, I would say that friendships do require investment, intentionality, proximity. And if for whatever reason a friendship ceases to exist, good practice is to, number 1, come into the presence of God, allow him to speak over you what he needs to speak to you. And outside of that, just trust that space is being created in your life for what's supposed to be there. So there's always a flip side to everything. So that's number 1. And then number 2, I think you can close my notebook for this because, well, this one is just more so, not even from my notes, just something I watched a couple days ago. So it was an interview on, I believe the YouTube channel is called Diary of a CEO. I think that's what it's called. And a doctor was being interviewed, and I just saw an 11-minute clip of a 2-hour-long interview. And in this 11-minute clip, she was pretty much just sharing that in terms of women and our hormones and our cycles and all of that, it's important to know what's going on with your body so that you can know what to expect from your body. And she was just letting the host of the podcast know, hey, part of the reason why your girlfriend may be responding like this, or why she might be more irritable around this time of the month, or whatever the case is because this is what's going on with her hormone levels. And as I was listening to it, I thought to myself, wow, I really need to do a deep dive into me. I need to figure out me so that I know what to expect from myself. Now, especially for women, in terms of hormones, there are different times of the month where you can expect to be more creative. There are other times of the month where you can expect to be more focused, more irritable even, just because of the hormones that are changing and fluctuating. And so there's something that I'll say, like, as I'm going around, I'm doing stuff. Let's say I'm like trying to zip up a bag and it's not working. Sometimes I will say, work with me, not against me. And sometimes, because we don't spend the time to even know ourselves, to know our body, we are literally the ones who are working against our own selves. So for example, if I know that this is the week before my cycle, then I know that I should probably be more gentle with myself. He says, I should probably be resting a little bit more. I should probably be doing these things to support my body, to support my mind, to support my productivity. And as she was talking, she even said that there's a doctor by the name of Dr. Kate Northrup, who's, I believe I read something from her daughter, actually. And so that individual, that Dr. Kate Northrup, plans her whole entire business around and strategy around her menstrual cycle. And I was just like, I've heard this before, but for whatever reason, it didn't click at the time. It just clicked this week when I heard her talking, because why not work with your body and not against it? If you know that you're going to be super creative during these days, why not have let's say you're building something, why not have time? Let me see. Sorry, just got a notification from Instagram. But why not have time set out to pour into what you're building during those days when you know creativity is going to be super high? Why not schedule your meetups with your friends during the time where you know I will probably be in the mood to hang out? And why not create and carve out spaces just for yourself, just to be able to pour in when you know that you're going to need it, right? And that doesn't just go for women, that also goes for men, that also goes for people who have, let's say there's someone in their life who might be going through menopause. in the full interview, she talks about that too. And as I was listening, I thought to myself, wow, I need to find out so much more about what's taking place in a woman's body, so that as women around me are experiencing this, I can show them more grace and more compassion, because their bodies have been accustomed to a certain level of hormones and just a certain amount of hormones for, let's say, 40, 50 years, and all of a sudden it's starting to change. So now they need to learn to adjust to the new hormone levels that are in their bodies. That's not easy in terms of your moods. That's not easy in terms of your physical body. And so lesson number 2 was get to know you. Even when it comes to food, there's going to be certain foods that really respond well to some people's biological makeup, and it does not do well for other people at all. Right? Just get to know you. Get to know how much sleep you need. Get to know what builds you. Get to know what feeds you, so that you can actually pour in to yourself the way that you need to be poured into, so that you can show up as the best version of yourself. And I know for myself, I will definitely be applying this information because it just makes sense. Why expect from myself something that's going to be super hard to do at a particular time in the month when it would be so easy at a different time? Why not just switch it around, just switch the expectation around, and allow myself the grace to just be where I am, as I am, without judgment. So hopefully those 2 lessons were able to bless you guys. And I just hope that for anybody who is in the process of just transitioning friendships, relationships, whatever it may be, that you know for a fact, and there's actually a post that I put up yesterday, and it talks about how our worthiness doesn't come from anybody else saying that we're worthy. Our worthiness comes from the fact that God made us. He loves us so much. And so I just want you to know that you never have to try and prove your worth or your worthiness. You're just worthy because God made you, and He loves you so, so much. But that is everything that I have for today. I hope that you guys have an amazing weekend. And one thing I was thinking of doing, I'll just show you guys my outfit, because, you know, I hardly ever do that, and I say that on this page. I want to show you guys like what I'm wearing and stuff, and then I never get around to it. So this is the OOTD for today. It is like this Chanel inspired dress with this unfinished hem detailing here. So that's the OOTD. Like I said, I'm not in the city right now, so I'm about to head out and explore. But welcome, Emily. And I hope you guys have an amazing Friday and an amazing weekend. And I'm grateful that you guys were able to join me. I hope that you got something from this. And just as I was saying, I really was not looking for all of these different verses about friendship, but they just kept coming to me. So I hope that if you were not able to join from the beginning, go back and watch, so that you can just be reminded of what a friend is. And just know that even if a friendship ends, it doesn't have to be the end of the world. It could actually be the beginning of something really beautiful that God wants to bring in. He just needed to create space. And so the other person walking away, or the friendship ending, whatever it looks like, can actually just be God creating space for what it is He wants to bring to you. So that's it for today. And remember, guys, like, work with your body. Work with your body. If you know it's just not the time of month for you to be super productive, or whatever the case is, just work with what your body is giving you. And you will find that the tension and the stress of constantly, I guess, trying to force and what is the expression? It's like going against the grain. Don't go against the grain. Just sit down and really take note, observe yourself, figure out what works for you, so that you can respond in the best possible way. But that's everything I have for you guys today. If there are any questions, as always, I will leave a couple minutes up so that you guys can share what that might be. And if not, I will end this, and I will also be sharing information for the YouTube channel, so you guys can go subscribe over there. I just see some yeses and some amens, but I think that's it in terms of feedback. So have an amazing weekend. Take care, guys.